Canada's oil industry history. Oil is a powerful and versatile source of Canadian energy that will be a part of the global energy mix for decades to come. Canada has about 6 billion barrels of remaining oil reserves located outside the oil sands, found primarily in Alberta, Saskatchewan, and offshore Newfoundland and Labrador. What are the oil sands? Canada's oil sands are the largest deposit of crude oil on the planet. The oil sands, or tar sands as they are sometimes inaccurately referred to, are a mixture of sand, water, clay, and a type of oil called bitumen. Thanks to innovation and technology, we can recover oil from the oil sands, providing energy security for the future. Oil sands are a mixture of sand, water, and bitumen, oil that is too heavy or thick to flow on its own. Bitumen is so thick that at room temperature it acts much like cold molasses. For that reason, this resource is sometimes called tar sands, but that term is incorrect because bitumen and tar, asphalt, are different compounds. Oil sands correctly identifies the end product derived from bitumen, crude oil. History. Alberta's oil sands were formed millions of years ago, as tiny marine creatures died and drifted to the sea floor and were covered by layers of sediment that exerted enough pressure and temperatures to transform the organic matter into oil. Over millions of years, that oil became trapped in thick layers of sand. Gradually, lighter hydrocarbons evaporated or were consumed by bacteria, leaving bitumen and water trapped in the sand. The area was then covered by glacial debris, but oil sands outcrops along the Athabasca River showed where deposits lay buried. Oil sands discovery and early use. In 1717, fur trader Henry Kelsey was recorded as the first European to have seen the oil sands after Wapasu of the Cree people brought a sample to the Hudson's Bay Company trading post in the Athabasca region. At that time, bitumen's primary use had nothing to do with energy. Indigenous people residing in the area combined it with spruce gum to waterproof their canoes, a practice described by Sir Alexander Mackenzie in 1790 as he traveled through the area. Economic potential of the oil sands. The economic potential of the oil sands was recognized by Charles Mair in 1908, who wrote that this region is stored with a substance of great economic value is beyond all doubt, and, when the hour of development comes, it will, I believe, prove to be one of the wonders of northern Canada. We were all deeply impressed by this storehouse of not only hidden but exposed resources we possess in this enormous country. What is unseen can only be conjectured, but what is seen would make any region famous. Industrial development. Efforts to tap the oil sands resource began in the early 20th century. The challenge: how to release bitumen from the sand and water. In 1944, Dr. Carl Clark, working for the Research Council of Alberta, used hot water and mixing to separate bitumen from sand. Large-scale experimentation at Bitchemount proved that the method could work, but first commercial development of the oil sands didn't happen until 1967 with the opening of the Great Canadian Oil Sands Project, now Suncor. By 1946, Imperial Oil has drilled 133 consecutive wells in Wise-Turn, Canada without finding a major new oil field. On the verge of abandoning exploration in the Rioyan. Imperial carries out a few last-chance wells in central Alberta. On February 13, 1947, the company strikes oil on Fromers Field near Leduc. From the start, the well produces up to 1,000 barrels a day and triggers an oil boom across western Canada. US-based Sun Oil Company spends $240 million to build the Great Canadian Oil Sands Plant, now Suncor Energy's base plant operations combining the features of an open-pit mine and an oil upgrader. The 45,000 barrel-a-day plant begins commercial operation in 1967. This same year, Nova Scotia's first offshore exploration well is drilled near Sable's Land, leading eventually to the Sable Offshore Energy Project, which has been producing natural gas since 1999. In 1978, Roger Butler, a chemical engineer, develops the concept of steam-assisted gravity drainage, SAGD, technology, using horizontal pairs of wells to access heavy oil and bitumen buried deep underground. The technology is refined over time, eventually allowing producers to access billions of barrels of previously inaccessible oil sands deposits. Began in 1997, the first large offshore oil discoveries are made at the Hibernia field off the coast of Newfoundland and Labrador. Chimerical development of the field, which contains some 615 million barrels of recoverable oil. Today about 200,000 barrels of oil a day are produced from Hibernia and other projects off the province's coast. In 2001, Cenovus Energy's Foster Creek plant near Cold Lake, Alberta becomes the first commercial oil sands project to use SAGD technology. Today in situ developers, using SAGD and similar technologies, produce about 1.3 million barrels a day, more than half of Canada's oil sands production. In 2005, Canadian producers adopt a technique of combining horizontal drilling and hydraulic fracturing to develop large shale gas plays. Starting in the Montney Formation in northeast BC. Natural gas is used for home heating and electricity generation, and increasingly to power buses and ships. It could also become a major overseas export for Canada in the form of liquefied natural gas, LNG. Since 2012, the country's leading oil sands companies formed Canada's Oil Sands Innovation Alliance, COSIA, an innovative collaboration where companies share technologies and work together to solve the industry's toughest environmental challenges. COSIA members have shared and developed more than 930 distinct technologies and innovations that cost almost $1.33 billion to develop.